We are going to bring in our guest right now in our first segment for Marquette University, head coach Louis Bennett and his assistant Sean. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. How are we doing today?
Good. Thanks, Baxter. Thanks, Simon, for having me on. Us on. That's
Absolutely.
great.
Well, we are excited. For those that follow the soccer scene here in the Milwaukee area, Marquette is the name. You get an opportunity to figure out, what it's like to be a Golden Eagle. I know. Growing up when I was a young kid, I had aspirations of playing for the Golden Eagles and then realized that I enjoyed doing broadcasting a little bit more as well at the end of the day and realized that's where my true talent actually lied, to be more honest about it. But we're excited to have you guys here. Such a historic program, especially in the time that you've been there, Louis. Just talk a little bit about your tenure here so far with the Golden Eagles.
Well, obviously, I think from the day I walked in, I had an idea of how we wanted to play the game, how we wanted to represent the school, the brand of soccer, and with whom were we going to be able to do that, and what we would need to do to achieve that. College soccer is a moving target because every year you're going to lose your more experienced and possibly you're more dedicated, or certainly you're more mature players, so then you have to rebuild. So if you don't have a brand or a style, sometimes it becomes a huge roller coaster. And I thought that probably the first four years we were trying to stabilize the program in the mold of our vision. Once we stabilized the program, we managed to put some really good seasons together, and obviously, as you said, we had one of the best seasons, or the best season we've ever had in history, winning a big East tournament and league, and then going on to the Sweet 16, get beaten by Virginia, etc., etc. Had a little blip last year, with big injuries and stuff, and we've brought in a lot of people now, new people, 2 foreign, 3 local, early. So we've had them in the spring. Still with the same brand, but trying to retune things and readapt things so that we look like ourselves, but with slightly different personnel. I use the analogy only yesterday is we kind of give guys an off-the-rack suit, and it would be up to them to make the suit feel good. So you've got to customize it.
Oh,
and I think it's
a good analogy.
Well, it's a mistake for us to think that we can customize a man's suit. I don't know exactly how he likes it fit. I mean,
exactly.
If you have the money, you go and have a suit made for you, right? And you tell the tailor exactly what it is. But when you bring all these guys in, we give them a blue suit, a blue or a gold suit.
Hey.
And then they have to say, well, I got this suit, but I want it to be mine. I want it to be I want it to be blue. I want it to be gold. I want to be part of that theme. I want to be part of that brand. I appreciate what they do. I like it. You don't go to Marquette and want to play territorial. You don't want to play, up to a target, scramble and run, kick and run. You can't come to Marquette and want to play that because you won't get a suit that fits that.
Exactly.
So over the last couple of years, we've had the opportunity, as coaches move on. I mean, Steve Bodie moved on just this recently. We've had a great opportunity to bring in other coaches, and Marquette has been really good about us helping find stuff, and finding Sean, who is a head coach in a Division II program, is now opened, I think, our horizons to bringing people in, not just local, although that is the focus. We try to get the best local players here, and then the regional, and then the national, and then the international. And I think Sean is helping us tighten that net loop on all of the pre-mentioned.
Absolutely. Well, you talked a little bit about your spring season so far. I mean, you've had a couple of games already under your belt too. So, as a head coach, what are you looking at with your guys of what they've done so far? You still have a couple of games remaining. You've got 2 games left. You take on the Milwaukee Torrent this Saturday, and then you play the Badgers of UW-Madison on April 30th as well. But you've gotten a couple of games under your belt so far. So, from a head coaching perspective, you haven't gotten your new freshmen in or any of that stuff yet really for next year, but how do you feel about your guys so far after the season you had to where you're at right now?
Good. I think the first game we play is in, was in February, and it's basically we're doing a futsal program, and then we go to play down in Chicago on a full field. So our expectation is that we would just get our outdoor feet indoor.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, doesn't it? You get your outdoor feet indoor.
That's true.
But that was a show and tell. And we had to know, and we knew we would be good at some things and not good at others, didn't do anything tactically. And then the next set of games, we had 2 games on one day. One was in 3 feet of snow, but we played, and that showed us quite a bit. and then it cleared up by the evening. So we played Green Bay in the morning and then Parkside in the evening, irrespective of the results, which were quite favourable to us. Mm-hmm. What I was more impressed was we do have 5 new guys in now, and we're bringing another 5 in August. The fusion between the guys we had, there was for me, there was a positive feel. We talked a lot about our spirit and, the courage to do the right thing, and our soul. And the spirit of the soul you have to develop because, like I said, you lose some of the major contributors to that. And that was pretty good. And then we played UWM, which was a little spicy, a little aggressive.
To be expected.
But it's exactly what we needed. Because, again, it was on not a beautiful day. And neither team would allow anything. And we used 8 freshmen, either freshmen that played in the fall, and then the new guys.
Wow, okay.
And so we looked really,
give you a true test to see what you had.
Absolutely. We looked unfamiliar with the personnel, but I saw signs, and the other coaches, I think Sean would agree, I saw signs of Marquette, even though it was with unfamiliar faces, which is a good step. I mean,
absolutely, yeah, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, Sean, I'd like to bring you in here rather than just having you listen to us chat. But you come from a Division II program, and you've been with a couple of Division II programs that are pretty much powerhouses in Division II soccer, college-wise. You were at Quincy as a full-time assistant, and I'm reading here as I'm talking to you, trying to sound smart, and Maryville University. I don't know if you've had enough time to see the biggest difference between Division II college soccer versus Division I, but I'd love for you to speak on that.
Yeah, Division II is maybe the schedule is not as intense in terms of the resources and the ability to bring guys in the morning and then also in the afternoon. Obviously, you were working with high-level players here at Division 1-2. The Division 2 model that I was used to was 2 games a week also, so you play Friday, Sunday, Friday, Sunday. We're in a position where we don't have that, and the schedule that we've tried to make allows us to concentrate more, to build players through the week. Sometimes at Division 2 you're just maintaining, you're just patching things up and then playing the games. But what we're looking at, really is getting the schedule as a periodization technique to allow us to perform our best every weekend, every Saturday or every Wednesday. And the resources and learning from, obviously, Louis, Marcelo is already there. The standard so far has opened my eyes a little bit in terms of, video analysis, the scientific part that is more associated with a higher level. Division 2, you're bringing players in. The focus is a little bit more balanced in terms of what we can do with them. But so far, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting into the muck and bullets of the upcoming fall.
It's one thing you brought up was player development, and obviously that's a hot topic right now with MLS, with the U.S. national team, and where does the college game fit in that? So I'm wondering if we can broaden our horizons, not just speaking about Marquette, but just college soccer as a whole, where you see college soccer fitting in that equation.
Well, it's hard to justify that. First and foremost, college soccer now is not what college soccer was in the 80s and 90s. So a lot of the experienced players that are in the MLS that may be passing judgment quite rightly on what was going on in those is not going on now. We do have a spring season. We do. We can coach these guys. Is it limited? Absolutely. And is it perfect? No, it's not. So I feel there is, because of the tradition and because of the product that you produce at the end. I mean, let's not forget Harry Shipp and Dylan Powers were MLS Rookies of the Year. Well, they spent 4 years of their life at institutions. The institution is a 4-year school. And now you've got a well-rounded human being that is also a professional soccer player. I would probably say the maintenance of those players in terms of preparation and focus and having a job is not the same as someone that might not have gone there. Now, I've got to watch, obviously, I want to use the words correctly. I'm a proponent of having us in a split season. There's been a lot of rumors, there's been a lot of talk.
Yeah, we've heard those talks for a while.
And that would allow us to continue the periodization that we have of playing one game a week, with just maybe in a season only have a midweek game, so that the squad that we carry could be utilized with greater efficiency, and we wouldn't be putting guys at a little bit of an injury risk. I mean, we're doing a lot about chronic load. When you go from doing nothing to a lot, you've got a chance of being injured.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when you could never prepare for a game, really, Friday, Sunday. I mean, the physiologists are saying, hey, if you play a soccer game, it takes you 48 hours to recover from that. And if you play a game within that 48 hours, it actually takes you 72 hours to fully recover from 2 games.
Wow.
So, I mean, we play Wednesday and Saturday. It really it's not so smooth in terms of the economics and the actual logistics of planning a season, but we've actually dropped down to 16 games now. So in order to do that, if that was gone and we could practice, and do our full week, we could give, the rest with the recovery sessions, and we would be able to form a model that would be just similar to what the pros would prefer. Then you've got we could be fully part of the pyramid, and we wouldn't need. We would probably forego some of that battering that we get from the professional programs. Some people do some people accept and do appreciate what college does, and I think that's an ever-growing thing. But I see a day that if college doesn't change or doesn't move to a more expansive season, we may land up losing some of the best homegrown. I mean, we've got 7 homegrown players, potential homegrown players on our team, and they've chosen to come to college because they didn't think they'd be picked up, and they wanted a good education, etc., etc. All the benefits of playing college.
And that's one thing you hear too a lot about. I think athletes forget about it, especially if they're very talented. They play professional, and then they're done by 30, 35 if you're fortunate to have your body stay in shape that long, and then it's like, oh, I still have 40, 50, 60 years of my life left. What am I going to do now?
And MLS is not in a place where every player is making millions of dollars.
No, exactly.
Where you can be set up for life.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I would have never. I mean, I played a short, sharp, battering ram of a career for 7 years indoors, and there was no way I wouldn't have to work. I mean, afterwards, and I think you're right, Simon. That the MLS, you're not going to make a fortune.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. I mean, there may be a few, but I don't know if we're going to get to that point right now. I mean, we're trying to make a league on a continent. You know how difficult that is.
Yeah.
And the
on
travel
a huge
and the
continent
expense
on top of it.
on a huge continent. Now, television contracts, etc., and I mean, I'm so proud of how U.S. soccer has grown. I mean, when I came, when I was signed by Kansas City, I couldn't find soccer on the television, in the newspaper. There was one. I think it was Toby Giles, Made in America, and it was a German, and I'd never seen German soccer, league soccer coming from England, and it was maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks.
We've mentioned that before.
I think, Simon, wasn't it on
it was on
public
PBS.
radio?
Yes, it was.
And now, and obviously going through a period of when there was no professional outdoor soccer, I had to play indoor soccer. Now there's an array of leagues right now that you can. If that's your fancy, you can go in. But none of them you can justify if you do get a chance to go to college, or very few of them in not going to college first. Maybe if you're number 1 draft choice or you're the top player in MLS, homegrown, maybe that's the choice to go to college, or not to go to college and go. But for, I would say still 95%, what are you doing? You are padding your back pocket with a degree that will help you should things not go as planned, because you're not in control of your destiny.
Is it? And I don't want to get you in trouble. Is it a matter of just the NCAA not understanding the nuances of soccer? Because they basically run college football like the NFL runs football. They basically run basketball like the NBA.
Well, they do, because, I mean, even looking at this, I mean, Turner and TBS and CBS Sports just signed an $8.8 billion contract just for the NCAA tournament.
For
so
the
they
tournament
can have
itself,
rights for the next, I think it's 15 years. So, I mean, there's millions and billions of dollars of money out there, but at the same time, it's for the sports that are popular.
I think the evolution of soccer up to 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when the MLS started, didn't give you a big broad picture of what a soccer player does. Now we've got that. I think the NCAA is investigating what's being said, and the people that deal with the medical aspects, student welfare, They are listening. They are listening, and I think that in the next couple of years, there's going to be a pressure point where people are going to realize, hey, if you want soccer and you want quality soccer, we might want to have to spread it out. And my hope would be that they would choose to do 2 seasons instead of take more games away and just play it in the spring, because
Sure.
we would then probably, in my belief, chop off another 10% or 11% of guys that really should go to college first would probably not do it and then just do part-time.
And that's ultimately the worry, right, is that college soccer does become irrelevant. And and you don't want that. And we have a unique opportunity in this country, unlike England, where you've got basically just the academies. I mean, from what I understand, you don't go to college to try to get noticed for soccer. No. But here, that culture still exists, and I think we need to take advantage of it.
I think one of the things with it too is if you look at the NFL model and the NCAA college football, the seasons are pretty comparable, in terms of the length. Now, if you look at professional soccer with a college season, the professional soccer season can run 8 to 10 months. A college season, unfortunately, is still pigeonholed into one semester. It's either a fall or a spring sport. And with that, really, it ties the hands of the coaches. You're trying to develop players, whether it's a homegrown talent that maybe at 18 isn't quite ready to make the step into the MLS, but you're hoping that after 4, maybe 4.5 years in a college program, if he takes the right path, does the right things, that the chance is still there at 22, 23, whatever it might be. And I feel that when you compare apples to apples, if you try and pigeonhole college soccer into one semester and you expect to produce players that can play in MLS or play for a national team, when the rest of the world is going 8 to 10 months in that same time, you're really holding yourself back.
No, I'd agree with you on that one too, and that's one thing that we always see. I mean, you talk about guys that like Freddie Adu, that was 14, all of a sudden he didn't even go to college, and he was hailed and lauded like, oh, the best new thing since PLA, sign him. Or even you see guys like Christian Pulisic right now, who's out. He's 17 years old, from Hershey, Pennsylvania, now playing for the Bundesliga at Borussia Dortmund. And I think Americans especially are just so hungry for that next Landon Donovan, that next Clint Dempsey, and it's like, we've got all these guys that are playing Division I soccer. Why aren't we producing more talent? Why aren't we producing more talent? When we flip it over, and I know this is, like you said, apples to apples at times though too, but you'll even look at the women's game. They have almost mastered that, look, you play 4 years of college, you go through the draft, you play in the NWSL if you're really good, you play for the national team. And we've seen so many ladies do that now, up-and-comers like Morgan Bryan, and even Tobin Heath and Alex Morgan as well, Sam Ewis. You see these ladies that are going through the system, and I know the men's game is vastly larger, and I get that, but at the same time, though, it's interesting to see, especially in a big continent like you mentioned, Louis, like America. It's hard to. I think the big thing we always hear though too is like, I feel like we're missing people. We're missing people.
I think we are missing people. But I also think that there are some unbelievably creative coaches at the college level that use the time they have with the players so efficiently. I mean, I'm really surprised that Tony Sana, Brian McBride. These are people that have gone 4 years at an institution, and they were the pioneers to going over, some of the pioneers, going over to Germany to play with Tony Sana, and then Brian McBride playing and not just playing in the EPL, being a pretty significant player.
Absolutely. He's got a bar named after him, for crying out loud.
Well, it takes a lot for that, yeah.
But if you look, that there are some... Even some mentors of mine were college coaches because, as I mentioned, the spring is not a dead period for us. We actually teach.
Yeah.
And that's the... I'm talking about split season. There are some coaches that would miss the teaching period of the college setup. We get to strip it right down to the basics. I mean, I was listening to David Check. It was describing about preparation, and so that you can prepare for moments and difficult moments over time. You see again and again, and that gives experience. And if anything new does come up, what you have then is to rely on your basic training instincts. If you see something new, I haven't had this before, you rely on your basic training instincts. That's what we do in the spring. We strip it all down, and if someone's got a technical, tactical, maybe a mental, emotional deficiency, or what we see as a weakness, we get time to work on that as a full-time guy. Sometimes they won't allow you to work on those things too deeply. You've got to do it on your own.
Yeah.
You're either good enough or you're not. And if you're not good enough, you get passed down the levels. That's where college can help the late developer. And I was a late developer. I think in my career, I was a much, much better player. When I'd gone out of my teens and gone through puberty and had all that thing going on, that college gave me an unbelievably breath of fresh air. There were fewer questions that I had about myself, about was I going to be either big enough or was I going to be tough enough, and that really gave me a buffer. And college, given even more tools in terms of time, you will see so many people that we don't catch. One of the leading goal scorer in the English Premier League nearly slipped through the net. Let's not forget that. Jamie Vardy was playing such a low level.
Right.
I think when Sean left the UK, he and I had both played at a higher level than Jamie Vardy was starting.
That's incredible.
It is unbelievable that the decision in most European countries is made, 16, potentially 18. You can come to college at 18 and you can grow maybe still, or physically you can change a lot within 18 to 22. And I think that's one part of the model that does really help, because you're bringing guys in with still the opportunity to become a soccer player, professional soccer player, but they're also getting the education part too to fall back on. And I don't know if the European system really advocates that so much. A lot of guys that are 18 are cut out on the heap, and you're out of luck, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what we see so many times in all, I think, college sports, especially if they were considered a good player in high school too. If they go and they play that freshman year and they don't get as much playing time as they think that they deserve, and they're like, wow, coach obviously doesn't value me as a player. I don't want to, I'm going to go somewhere else, and then they take a step down or whatever. But it's those players that actually are willing to put in that time and that effort and be like, look, I don't care if I play a minute or if I play every single game. I want to be here. I want to get better. And I'm sure guys like that, for you, Louis, are very important that you want on your team.
Absolutely. We can soften the blow of the first big disappointment because you've got school and you've got trying to be something bigger than yourself. A lot of times when we get players in our model, it's a pay-to-play model in a lot of cases.
Sure. Yeah.
The first big disappointment is they don't make a travel squad.
Yeah.
Or they're 28th on the roster when they thought they would be, 1 to 11.
Yep.
We can soften that blow because it's not you're not good enough and sorry, we're bringing in the next batch of young professionals.
Yep.
It's, okay, let's work with you as long as you're prepared to accept that and as long as you'll be able to go. We don't have that same, if you bring in an MLS guy and he's been with an MLS program, they push players down to their lower ranks all the time and bring them up. The homegrown guys.
Yep.
So that they have probably had a disappointment. But my worry sometimes is about those disappointments that you have,
Exactly.
And the time to grow. I mean, obviously, Simon's clan, the Provan clan, all playing college,
Yep.
and they went through the bumps and bruises and had success through the college system and all had opportunity to go on, and for me is okay, so that's a model that don't rip the model up and throw it away.
Exactly.
Understand it, and let's face it, even the best and brightest, there are some parents that will say you need a college degree, as I say, so if you fall on your derriere, you've got that big pad and it's called my degree.
Exactly.
Which you won't have.
I think just to add to Louis there as well, the guys that you're bringing into college, especially at the level that we're looking, they're usually the best players within their team to start with. So now you're piecing it together. They understand straight off the bat that, hey, there's going to be 28 guys. You might have been the superstar in your club, your high school, wherever you were playing. Now you've got to compete. And before anything's laid out to them and they get to become part of the team, they understand from the outset that nothing's going to be given to them.
Exactly.
And if we don't get that from them, they're probably not the kind of player that we want to bring into the program, because it's not going to work. So it's really important that when we're recruiting those guys, they understand no matter how good they are at the club level, the high school level, you got to earn the spot. And when you have 28 guys doing that, the practice drives itself up and you improve as a group.
And not just 28 guys, but guys that have been there for 3 years already.
Yeah,
absolutely. The system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, Louis, before we let you go, Sean, I'm going to ask this of you as well, Sean. You've been around the Milwaukee soccer scene for a long time. You've got a very good understanding of what is going on. I'm curious to get your thoughts about this, and I'm only asking you this because you said I could ask you anything before you brought me on the air. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about the consistent butting of heads of trying to bring a pro team to Milwaukee, because there are so many people that have the same idea, but they don't want to work together.
Okay,
and you've been around a long time, and you can phrase it however you want to, but I'm curious, as someone that's been around and seen a lot, what your thoughts are about that.
I don't believe the same problems that we've been butting heads on previously, 20 years ago, is the same as the issues we have now. I think we have a sustainability issue about bringing pro or multiple pro. Now, it is a different country. Will you figure how many pro clubs are in London? 7, 8, 9,
like
10,
that, yeah.
And Premier League clubs. I believe at whatever I think we could sustain maybe a couple of levels if the sustainable model is such that you understand how many players you need, how many full-time players you need, whether they need to be on full-time salaries that they can take care of themselves, or it's a salary that you can take care of their families. So then you fit that model into, there's a league now that will sustain my pro team. Then if we want another pro team that wants to sustain MLS, we have to understand what does that require? How many fans do we need? What's the overall budget? And if you notice that the USL franchise that started off, I don't know, I think it started at 50,000, is a lot bigger now. I mean, I think it's maybe even 2 million plus. The NASL franchise, an MLS franchise now. I mean, the deal that David Beckham did, I guess, was really good because he gets he could sell his part of that franchise and make an additional 3 years or 4 years of his salary. So in Milwaukee, I think there is a coming together in a sense where there are factions that want a pro team, and I think that eventually we may see people that get paid X amount of dollars to do it, and people get a different, and I think there might be a blue and a red, side of town, but I think it's prime. For sure, this city I believe, can sustain a professional team model. What I do think should and could happen and would add to the sustainability is weaving in the community that will support it so it is the top of the pyramid. And so at the top of the pyramid, if it were the most prestigious league you play in, and then maybe have 1 or 2 teams at a fewer leagues low and a fewer leagues low, and I think that all the clubs would eventually come together, because without that we're going to lose some of our best and brightest, and they're going to go overseas. And as you know, one of our top recruits, Andrej Novakovic, I supported him going for some training after committing to Marquette, and he had to go as far as Reading, England, and sign there for 3 years, where he could have signed on his own doorstep if there was something available.
Exactly.
But I think it's going to work. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist, and you're right. I've been here since playing it in the 80s. I think it's going to work.
Sean, we promised you'd talk to us about differences.
Yeah.
MLS, England, Australia. Give us a 30-second breakdown.
That's quick.
Everything you've ever learned.
Yeah, everything I've ever known. England obviously has been more established. I think the MLS is coming up. Australia's probably a little bit further behind. Australia has the top flight, and then they have regional leagues below that make up the second tier. Obviously, you know a lot about the English structure, and as we were saying there earlier, I think the big thing in America is getting a pathway to pro for local players.
Excellent. Great.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
It's great, guys. Thanks very much
thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Anytime.
Head coach of Marquette University, Louis Bennett, and his assistant, Seah Hughes, were here with us on Two Up Front. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got more exciting action for you. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America.